panic. It is a really terrible situation. So what I'm hopeful for is this is a wake-up call for all of us that we can come together in a goal that we want to be the healthiest country in the world. I just did my first panel, I have to say, and I'm not very good at jumping in and making inflammatory remarks and like talking over people. So I need to get better at this.
America is overfed, overmedicated, and overcharged by a healthcare system that costs more than any other country in the world, but gets worse results and spends billions advertising medications that very clearly do not make people healthy. Something radical then needs to happen, and it just did. RFK Jr. is the new U.S. Health Secretary, landing the job he traded for ending his own presidential campaign to support Donald Trump. Critics have variously described him as dangerous, unqualified, and a clear threat to U.S. health. Supporters say it's past time to make America.
And that's the craziest judgment to have of this man, because I'm like, hold on. So the transgender woman wasn't like a problem? The fact that was the health secretary, health and human secretary, like, are you serious? Y'all want to complain about RFK when we just had a transgender woman who obviously wasn't mentally there talking about American health. I mean, bro, and overweight, by the way, she couldn't even have been in shape. I mean, if we're going to have a health secretary, the health secretary should at least be the prime example of health.
Healthy again.
Which RFK is, to be honest. Maybe now you may not hear it in his voice, but let's be real, the man could pop out more push-ups than you.
We're joining to discuss all this is the biohacker, Brian Johnson, star of new Netflix documentary, Don't Die, The Man Who Wants to Live Forever. Dr. Deborah Birx, who's the Trump former White House COVID response coordinator, entrepreneur and RFK supporter, Grant Cardone, and Francesca Fiorentini, the co-host of America Unhinged on Zateo. Welcome to all of you. Francesca, let me start with you. RFK Jr. When I first interviewed him, I was very skeptical. I'd heard a lot of stuff about him being a crazy conspiracy theorist and so on. I've interviewed him probably 4 or 5 times since then, and I didn't get the feeling I was with a madman. I got a feeling I was with a guy who's immersed himself into health issues for many decades, that he has some opinions which others don't like, but that broadly speaking, he comes from a good place of wanting to make America a healthier place. What's wrong with that?
Hey,
no,
man.
I don't think there's anything.
Shout out my man Daniel Castro. He says Fox is a badman. He doesn't care about people. Hey, man, shout out Fox Chase though. Hey, man, shout out Daniel Castro. Appreciate the support, man. We're about 26 away from opening a call-in line and running a conspiracy hour. And you know what? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got a good video.
Nothing wrong with it. I think he is the picture of health himself. I mean, he's a roided up 70-year-old who doesn't believe in germ theory and eats roadkill. I think that is perfect. He sounds like he's speaking into a fan half the time, and he doesn't believe in vaccines. He wants to replace healthcare in this country with Ozempic. And he also wants to limit access to antidepressants and psychiatric meds for all Americans and replace it with things like meditation.
Nah. She ain't had to do bro like that. He just completely just shredded this man. Sound like he's talking into a fan though. Oh, roided up. I'm like, you can't prove. Come on now. RFK's not roided up. He just been in shape all his life. What can I say? Shout out to RFK, but roided up, and he sounds like he's speaking into a fan. I ain't gonna lie. That was freaking hilarious. That was absolutely hilarious. I give it to her.
If we think we have a mental health care crisis in this country now, just you wait until RFK Jr. is finished with this country. If you think there is some sort of drug epidemic, people are going to be buying Adderall on the black market in insane amounts. He also thinks that Jewish people and Chinese people can't get COVID. That was a fun one. You should tell that to my uncle. Oh, wait, he's dead. Also, 83 Samoans also dead from the anti-vax work that he did in American Samoa. Just as there's a measles outbreak in Texas right now because of the kind of lies about vaccines that he has spilled. But honestly, Piers, other than that, truly a picture of health.
Right, well, you certainly painted a rosy picture of the forthcoming health secretary. Deborah, let me ask you. I mean, look, you're a medical expert. You specialized in HIV, AIDS, immunology, vaccine research, global health. I remember you obviously center stage in the Trump COVID era. What do you make of RFK? I mean, do you think he's dangerous? Is he misguided in some areas? Is he broadly right? What's your overview of him?
Well, we're finally having the discussions that we needed to have, frank discussions about the health of this country. I got to travel the country for many months during COVID, working at the state level and the community level. And what I witnessed was a lot of undiagnosed disease that could have been treated early, that then resulted in COVID deaths. And I saw a health system that had completely deteriorated in our rural areas. Our rural areas really don't have access to healthcare anymore. And the hub and spoke model that we had set up to get really sick people into the regional medical centers, they were overwhelmed themselves. So COVID pointed out a lot of our issues with chronic disease. Like with early HIV, when we started, we were only treating those with symptoms. Well, that was the tip of the iceberg. When we finally started working and finding asymptomatic individuals and getting them on treatment early before they had evidence of disease, they could thrive. So what I'm hoping is this is a moment we work with Americans to reverse those early signs of disease and prevent the.
When people tackle this health argument, they really tackle it from a very, I say ignorant position. Because we sit there and we try to act like exercising and health don't matter. We sit there and try to act like, okay, well, we just need all these pharmaceutical companies. We just need the vaccines or else. Now, there's a whole island out there somewhere in the Asian somewhere. I don't remember Pacific. I believe it was in Japan, some island off there in Japan, where almost all the old people is like 100 years old due to just dieting and exercising and fasting and all that lovely stuff. So we can't sit here and pretend like, oh, vaccines and no, look, I'm gonna say this. I can't say anything that goes outside the use of vaccines because it goes against what the CDC says, and that's medical misinformation. So I'll just stamp it right there, and y'all get what I'm saying. Hopefully,
the progression, and then we won't have frank diabetes and hypertension.
And shout out my man. Hold up, whoop. There you go. And shout out my man, Donovan Boogie 100. Obviously, I support Trump and voted for him, but what's this about an executive order to combat anti-Semitism? It's funny that there's only one group of people you cannot criticize. Free speech? Yeah, I heard about that BS too. I was like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Like to tackle anti-Semitism. Now, in what form? That's what I'd have to say. Are you talking about violence against Jews? Okay, if we're talking about that, then I can agree. But if we're talking about the criticism of Jews or of Israel, then I can't get down with that. That is going against the First Amendment, which wouldn't honestly hold up in court if that's what Trump is going for. And if he's going for that, then somebody need to bop him on the head.
Stroke will have a very different outcome. I see you shaking your head, but I actually have data.
Appreciate the support, bro.
And so data, I think trumps. I'm right now in West Texas, was out in West Texas for the last year, documenting the number of people who have asymptomatic early diabetes. 58% in this community, a rural community that was picked relatively at random. 58% of individuals already had pre-diabetic or diabetic states, and another 60% were already hypertensive. None of them knew they were. They were all in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. This is our moment where we can actually tackle the issues that everyone has been ignoring for more than 2 decades.
But can I just ask the doctor? I'm surprised that you are a doctor. I believe in preventative medicine, and I think that RFK Jr. does a really good job of hiding the ball when he says things like chronic disease. I absolutely believe in that. The number one way to stop chronic disease is to have access to a doctor, to have regular checkups. 40 million people in Texas alone are.
Problem with doctors. Damn it. No, I'm going to risk it. I'm going to risk it tonight, guys. Fuck it. If you don't see me on tomorrow, it's because they hit me with medical misinformation. But bro, doctors are really not the only answer here. Let's keep it real. And then when you go to the doctor, this is the reason why a lot of people from outside the country who come here don't trust doctors. Because they know when you go home, they have certain remedies. Here, they force you on pills. They force you to the pharmaceutical companies. That's damn near what a lot of doctors get paid to do, is to put you on, meds. Yes, meds, when there are other things that they could have done. Bro, look how they would look what they were doing with kids. They were tossing kids ADHD medicine for every kid that just wanted to sit up and holler. As soon as your kid had just a little bit of energy, ADHD medicine. Bro, what? Like, trust me. And I ain't gonna lie, but that whole ADHD medicine scared me when I was a kid. I literally sat my ass down just so I wouldn't get that medicine.
Uninsured, and a lot of them buy into some of the quack science that RFK Jr. is trotting out there, which is why if you were in West Texas, you should know that there is a massive amount of people who don't get vaccinations, and that's why we've got a measles outbreak right now. So in order to say, okay, you were the COVID, we know you're the COVID lady, right? I'm not trying to come down on you on that. I think you could have done a lot better of a job. You obviously were responsible for papering over Trump's worst wiles, like injecting bleach into, your system in addition to ivermectin. Please don't at me, all the ivermectin psychos. And, we know he liked you because you wore a pretty scarf and, you're nice to look at. And that's great. But you're also a doctor and you have a responsibility. So you have to tell the American people that it's the fact that they can't get access to affordable meds. They can't get access to a doctor without charging them an arm and a leg for basic.
I mean, we wouldn't need affordable meds if everybody practiced healthy eating and dieting. I mean, hey, I'm gonna stamp that point. We wouldn't need so much goddamn medication. We wouldn't need big pharma so goddamn much if we would take ownership of our health.
Things, if you need, let's say, a CT scan or an X-ray, right? If you have all kinds of just
except for the special cases, of course, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Basic things, that you're not allowed to get that without being charged an arm and a leg. I've done work on this as a journalist. I've interviewed people who refuse to go to the doctor because they cannot afford it. RFK Jr. does not believe in healthcare for all people. He says it's too expensive. Meanwhile, he wants to hawk everyone a bunch of supplements, and under his
I mean, not only would it be too expensive, but we dramatically lower the quality of healthcare itself. That's one of the reasons why. That's one of the prime reasons why.
FDA, I'm sure a bunch of stuff is going to be approved.
Okay, well, before I go to the other two guests who've not had a chance to contribute yet, I think it's only fair that, Deborah, you get to respond to that. So what would you say?
No, it's always disappointing to me when you have to degrade somebody to actually have a clear discussion. What I'm trying to be very clear on is there are people with insurance who are undiagnosed because they don't have time to go to the doctor because they're working 7 days a week. So we have to, in the medical community, adjust to people's needs. We can't do this one size fits all, that urban areas have access. And a lot.
Honestly, doctors need to start pulling up on us, man. Doctors need to start popping out like these barbers. Like, bro, barbers start pulling up to your crib, man. Let it be a month, I found out. Now, here's the thing, though. The fact that, like, doctors also, I feel like need to do that. Like, they need to pop out again. They need to pop out, get the Uber service that's paid for by their company, hopefully, and start visiting their patients. Some of us honestly don't got time to pull up to the doctor. Like, bro, I remember it was a hassle for me just to get a dentist appointment because I'm so damn busy.
A lot of rural areas do not have access. Yes, sure, insurance was an issue for a group of people and still remains an issue for some, but it doesn't.
But if they got any dentists on pull up, man, let me know. But other than that, I'm pulling up to my appointment.
Answer all of our questions. And so just picking your specific argument and not recognizing that America is a very diverse country with a diverse set of needs. And what I'm telling you, the data.
How will RFK Jr. make it better?
RFK is already making it better by having a frank discussion about healthcare needs in this country and the level of chronic disease and the fact that our food has all of these additives, which we know now. I mean, I'm sure you support the fact that the gut microbiome is critically important. And we've been abusing our gut microbiome for decades with these food additives. And now we know that our gut microbiome, which none of us in the 1980s when we were trained really paid attention to, he's waking people up to that issue of food, gut microbiome.
Overall, having a good gut health. It's like, bro, back in the day, there was no talk about gut health. Back in the day, we were not talking about fasting. We just said eat your fruits and veggies, and that was that. Like, that's all we gave y'all back. Well, that's all they gave my generation. Probably even worse the last generation. I can only imagine what they were telling y'all if all they had for me was eat my fruits and veggies. I can only imagine what y'all was getting. Just now we're talking about gut health. Just now we're talking about the health benefits of fasting. Just now.
Well, let's talk about food. I mean, really.
Okay, well, hang on. Let me bring in. We've got two other guests. Let me bring in Brian Johnson. Brian, great to see you again. On our sense, we had a fascinating interview a year ago or so. this is all in your wheelhouse because you've gone on an extraordinary personal journey about health. First of all, what is your assessment of the state of America's health right now?
Yeah, I think the backdrop to all of this that's really important is that the AI is advancing at a speed that is unfathomable to our current minds. We are bringing online the equivalent of billions, if not soon trillions of hours of PhD level intelligence, human intelligence, to find new discoveries about health and wellness and things that can improve our lives. And this cannot be understated. So as much as we want to debate an individual and their ideas, in the backdrop, the technological thrust and movement forward is just really the most powerful force in the entire world, that it will transform the way we think about health and wellness. I mean, over the past couple of years, I've become the most measured person in human history, proving that you can, in fact, measure the biological age of your organs in a robust fashion.
Yes, you can.
We can begin doing this for a very large number of people. So I think.
And shout out to this man because he's very keen on health. I remember the Kardashians did it. And don't ask me why I called this episode our Kardashians. Let's not get into that part of the story. But when I was watching the Kardashians, look, this woman, the mom, right? She went to the doctors and they performed some type of special procedure where they can tell the age of her body, not her actual age, which is, I believe she's in her like mid 50s, damn near 60s, but her body age, like due to how well she takes care of herself through her great dieting and exercising. It's crazy how all the women pick up the lavish lifestyle, but they don't notice all the fruits and vegetables these women eat with the exercise. It's crazy how y'all knows that part. But through that, her body read that, and through the health of her body, she's like 46. And I can see it. I'm like, yo, yeah, you are like 50, damn near 60 years old, but due to your great health, your body reads that you're only 46, and y'all could be the same. It's just the way you take care of your body. Some of y'all is like goddamn 26, but got the body of like a 40-year-old. So see, yeah, some of y'all done kind of force yourself forward. Some of y'all doing great. Some of y'all are about 40, but due to great health and all that, you look like you're damn near my age. And salute to you.
We're at a turning point in terms of the way we think about health and wellness, where instead of responding to symptoms, we can actually get ahead of it. And I think it actually answers a really important question. What is the West fighting for? I think it would be pretty cool if America said, we are going to become the healthiest nation on planet Earth, that we're going to have the longest lifespan of any country in the world. Okay. It's a really bold endeavor. It would be something that we could lock in onto. I think everyone benefits.
Universal healthcare is not the answer for everybody living longer, for everybody having longer lifespans. That is not the answer.
Benefits from positive health.
And what about RFK himself? Do you think he's a force for good, or are you worried about some of the stuff he does and says?
He is an atypical person in the job, and there's a mixed level of opinions of his, but that's true for anybody. If you bring anyone into this position, there's an easy way to take them down. He's well-intentioned. He has different ideas. I think ultimately at the end of the day, I think he will respect science. I think he will move forward with science, and I think that he'll be good for the health of America.
Okay, Grant, you've been very patient. Thank you for that. You're a big fan of RFK. I'm going to say I like him personally. I've enjoyed interviewing him. He's a very smart guy. That is without any doubt. I think he's a smart guy. He's a big thinker.
Oh God, bro! Bro, don't confuse his voice for lack of cogency, please. Do not confuse that man's voice for a lack of cogency, because that man is smart. He really knows what he's talking about. He broke down the science. He's the person that made everybody look into Dr. Fauci. I mean, salute to RFK Jr. Y'all gonna put some respect on that man's name. Like, shoot, y'all loved his father, but y'all don't want to pay respects to him now? I mean, to the family now? Like, come on now. Just because he's on Trump, now all of a sudden the Kennedys is a problem. But shout out Daniel Castro, my man. He says, some have bodies of 30. Some have bodies of 40-year-olds, fat as fuck at Don's. Yo. Come on. Come on. Let's be nice, guys. Some have bodies of 40-year-olds. 40-year-olds? Like, bro, no. Let's
thinker. And frankly, I always say to people, I've been saying this a lot recently, if you look at pictures from New York, or LA or Miami or anywhere you like from 1920, and you compare them to today, what do you see? No fat people, right? You just see a bunch of fit-looking people, albeit with a smaller health span expectancy because of disease and so on. But Americans, like the British, have just got very fat and immobile with all the disease that comes with that. They're eating crap food in the main and so on. And here you got a guy, RFK, who's 70 odd. He looks very fit himself, so he practices what he preaches. And he just wants to think differently about what America is doing to itself with food. I mean, that alone, as Deborah said, I think is a good way to start, isn't it?
Hey, look, I mean, all you got to do is look around the country, just like you said in your opening, 355 million people. Most of them look older than they are. They're definitely overweight. You got autism breaking out in this country at great rates, infertility, sperm counts down, infant mortality goes on and on and on. Anybody that does not want to confront that with new eyes, like your self-described journalists down there in the red, it seems to be here just to antagonize, not solve a problem.
Self-described entrepreneur.
ADD, ADHD, depression levels. I think 25% of the country's on some kind of medication that's below 25 years old. And we consume more medication in this one country, of 350 million people, than the entire planet combined. And anyone that doesn't want to confront that, like Robert Kennedy is, and by the way, he helped get Donald Trump voted in as a mandate.
And here's the thing, is like, bro, this is what this, I don't know, Francesca, what's her deal about? Universal healthcare, universal healthcare. It's all about universal healthcare. No, the hell it ain't. Like, universal healthcare ain't gonna stop that. If anything, it's gonna make it worse. Because if we lower the standard of healthcare to give it to everybody, I mean, can you only imagine how worse it's gonna get? I mean, look, we're at a high standard now through capitalism. Through advancements in medicine, we're still at a high rate. Can you imagine universal healthcare and we lowered it? We'd really be screwing ourselves.
The country wants change, and it is willing to confront the status quo.
I also think with him, Francesca, there are some, definite disingenuous attempts to misrepresent him. I asked him categorically, is he anti-vaccination, period? And he said absolutely not. And in fact, his own kids have been immunized against various things. He's very skeptical, as many people are, about the COVID vaccine, particularly the mRNA vaccines. I was with, for what it's worth, one of the top cancer experts in Britain for lunch a couple of days ago, who was utterly scathing about the long-term impact of the mRNA vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna, and says that they're reaping a whirlwind in the world of cancer, for example, as a result of the vaccines. Not to say that I personally believe they saved many lives, but did we have enough time to examine the potential consequences? Almost certainly not. So he's been skeptical about that, but he's not anti-vaccine, as many people like to portray him.
Except that he founded an organization, the Children's Health Defense League, that is straight up against vaccinations. They are selling onesies for babies that says, unvaxxed and unafraid, right? Like, that's what they're doing. They're an anti-vax organization. That's what he has done for decades now. I just want to name, trust me, if we think that ripping people's psychiatric meds away is going to be beneficial for the health of this country, you have another thing coming. We are going to see.
Actually, I do think it's a good idea. Well, hang on.
Drug epidemic. Hang on. We're gonna.
No, you hang on. To answer that point, I do. America is ridiculously over-medicated, particularly in the area of antidepressant drugs and anxiety drugs and so on. And Britain's going the same way.
No, I think it's great. I think it's great.
There are millions of young people.
You know what happens?
Hang on, Francesca. Hang on. Don't start shouting. Don't start shouting. Let me just finish. Let me put a question to you.
I bet money that Francesca's on drugs right now.
Francesca, let me put a question to you. Hang on, guys. Hang on. Can you both please hang on?
Damn, yeah, she's all
Francesca.
People's medications away.
Can't stop.
Let me make a point, please.
Let
me make my
Piers,
point.
can I
Let him
just
respond.
Can
you everyone stop talking for a
I'm on
moment?
a panel.
Francesca, the point I'm making is America has 80% of the world painkiller consumption. 80%, right? You have millions of don't respond yet, millions of young people who are taking completely unnecessary, mind-bending drugs for things like anxiety, depression, often self-diagnosed. And guess what happens? You then have a load of weirdo, loner kids running around with their brains scrambled who commit mass shootings and stuff like that. There is a direct correlation. And we're going the same way in Britain. Young people are getting massively over-medicated. So I am actually in favor of RFK trying to pull America away from its addiction to mind-bending drugs.
There's a real life example for what happens when you kick people off of painkillers, which I agree. Painkillers were overused, specifically the Sackler family, when it comes to Oxycontin.
Now, and I mean, bro, if we're gonna talk about painkillers, I mean, they really need to shut the hell up, because painkillers are a lot of reasons why people are now on drugs. And I'm talking about opioids. I'm talking about heroin. Yes, opioids. So it's kind of crazy how they talk about that, because I'm like, well, through these painkillers, a lot of people have turned into drug addicts. One person, I know a lot of people who've had one serious injury and now they're buying perks and they don't need them every goddamn day. Is like, you know, it's a slippery slope out here in the streets. So it's kind of crazy when she brings up the pain medication. I'm like, yeah, but you got to understand, if you don't take people off these pain medications, or you don't take people off these medications, eventually they will build a dependency on them. And at that point, they might as well just be crackheads.
Oxycontin, right? We all know this infamous case got millions of people addicted to Oxycontin when they didn't need to be on such a heavy opioid, right? And so what happened? Rightfully, doctors started rescinding those scripts, which was good, but then people were already addicted. So they sought painkillers on the black market, which were mostly just heroin, opioids, fentanyl, and whatnot. And ask anyone who studies these issues, it made it worse. Meaning we need to understand that when you just rip meds, when you rip meds away from people, no. When you rip meds away from people, you actually have to have some kind of fallback that helps them and rehabilitates them. Otherwise, they go to the street to buy street drugs. Everybody knows this. It's well proven.
Yo, so you're pretty much saying that, yeah, we should just give them constant Percocet, we should just perk 30 them the fuck out, or else they'll just run to the street dealer. It's like, bro. You see how dead end some of their plans would be. It's like, you, like, Francesca, bro, just show me your bank account right now. Which pharmaceutical company is paying you? Because ain't no way you just try to say that.
But again, what do I know? I'm not trying to hawk supplements. Here's what I'll say.
What do you know?
RFK Jr. health issues, because I think I'm really hoping that we can have that discussion, because I think, and I really appreciate you all being open-minded, that he's bringing a new tone to the investigation and really talking about diagnosing disease early. And I love the AI approach. We have reams of data in our electronic medical records, and we're not using them. Data should be used, and we can anonymize it, and we can look at what people's risk factors are, and we can do so much with the information we already have, and we can find solutions. I hear you talk about Texas and the immunization rates there. That issue is in one of our very culturally special groups in West Texas that has had a vaccine exemption for decades. It's in, we all know our Amish and Mennonites have always historically been vaccine hesitant. And I think, so you don't group that situation in Texas with the rest of the country. And let's remember what he said in the hearing. He made it very clear to every mom out there that his children were immunized about childhood vaccines. Yeah. And what we've done wrong in public health is we didn't explain that COVID vaccines were nothing like the childhood vaccines, and that the childhood vaccines, like many of the diseases, you get it once, you don't get it again. And this is getting the children to have that disease without getting the deadly consequences. That is not what the COVID vaccine was designed to do. It wasn't designed to prevent against infection. And if you look at the vaccine hesitancy rates, they've doubled since COVID. So we have to start addressing these things. We can't just ignore them.
And Deborah, let me ask you, Deborah, I mean, given that you were the face of COVID from the Trump presidency at the time, do you share, this doctor who I was with, do you share the concerns about the longer term negative impact of some of the COVID vaccines?
The messenger RNA vaccine should have been rolled out for the people that were at risk for severe disease, because that's what the vaccine was developed for. But when we say that we're following the science and the data We need to follow the science and the data. And the science and the data said people primarily over 65 or people with significant comorbidities were at risk for severe disease. Those are the individuals that should have been immunized first. And we should have put our science behind our immunization schedule and protected those most at risk. It went into young people in hospitals before it went into our elderly and nursing homes. That is not following the science and the data. So I am all for following the science and the data, but it shouldn't just be a statement. It should be a reality. And when we don't match what we do in public health to the science and the data, that is when we get into trouble. And that's when we start to fracture trust with the American people.
Okay, bro.
Yo, we got 300 plus y'all in here, man. Do me a favor. Double tap that screen, like the video with the 3 dots up there in the corner. If you have any questions, comments, jokes, disagreements, $2 and up, and I'll go ahead and read them out loud and even react with it and post to the top of the chat. We appreciate the support, guys. Let's keep it going.
Brian, again, you're going through this extraordinary experiment with your own body. And I guess we'll see, proof will be in the pudding, right? If you're still here in 100 years' time, we're all going to be going the Brian Johnson route. But if you're RFK right now, what do you think are the biggest priorities for public health in America?
Yeah, I think one is getting the direction correct. I think that if America wanted to become the healthiest planet, healthiest country in the entire world, that is the right direction. Right now, I think we're trying to fight over what is the source of the problem. But generically speaking, over 40% of the US population is obese. I recently went to India and I was shocked that the air pollution was so bad. It was like smoking 4 cigarettes per day, but nobody had an air purifier. Nobody had a mask. And I thought, how is this possible? They are so normalized to such a tragedy. I mean, babies are breathing this air. And I came back to the US and I saw almost everyone I saw was obese. And I thought, we have the same problems here and I'm normalized to it. I couldn't see it. I'm oblivious to it. So I think we have a very serious problem. We are a terribly unhealthy country. It is bad for our work. It is bad for our play. It is bad for our family. It leads us all to be manic. It is a really terrible situation. So what I'm hopeful.
I want to go back to the days in our country where seeing a fat person was a goddamn spectacle. Like we put fat people in the circus. Goddamn, I don't think I should be making this joke. Fuck it. I'll make it. Well, back in the day, we would put fat people in the goddamn circus. Like, what? It used to be a spectacle to be such a fat ass because nobody else would dare do something like that to themselves. So it's kind of crazy now that something that was once a spectacle that we put in the circus is something that we see every goddamn day.
For is this is a wake-up call for all of us that we can come together in a goal that we want to be the healthiest country in the world. And we have the fortuitous situation that we have the best technology in the entire world. If we can actually incorporate technology into our healthcare system in a way that's sensible and practical, I think we really could lead the world. So to me, I'm very bullish on this. But I mean, I just did my first panel, I have to say, and I'm not very good at jumping in and making inflammatory remarks and like talking over people. So I need to get better at this. But I mean, I think really this is like a really cool moment for us as a country, for us to find a new purpose for existence.
Yeah,
Why is it, do you think, that we're so unhealthy? That's my question. Is it because we're one of the only developed nations without universal health care?
Nigga, no.
Is it because millions?
No. What is this hang up on universal health care? Stop talking about universal health care. It's not going to help Americans get healthier. That's not it. I'm telling you that right now. We're already unhealthy with great health care. Lowering the standard of health care and giving it to everybody is going to make things worse. What we need is to, 1, take all this poison out of our food, and 2, to preach diet and exercising and fasting. I mean, fasting is real crucial. Y'all need to read up on fasting. Actually, I'm going to show a damn video on fasting. And shout out Zoloff. He says, you could say the same thing about the bearded lady. Yeah, low-key. You could. Shout out Zoloff.
Millions and millions of Americans die every single day because they don't have access to a doctor.
More money per civilian.
I'll tell you this. I have been.
Yes, we do.
Hang on. Don't talk about it. Grant, I'll bring you in a moment. But Brian, just to respond to that, the universal health care.
So over the past 4 years, 4 years ago, I posed this question: are we the first generation that won't die? Now, in any previous generation, it would have been absolutely crazy to pose that question. Of course, death is inevitable. At this moment, though, in the speed at which AI is developing, I think it is the first time in human history where you can ask with a sober face that we may be the first generation who won't die.
I agree.
Now, doing that, I've become the most measured person in the world. And we have measured everything, every biological age of every organ in my body. Also, we've measured the toxins in all foods and all supplements. I can tell you, I've learned the outcome is food is guilty until proven innocent. The toxin
So
load
no, you
in our
don't think
foods
that access
is
to a doctor
insane.
helps you stay alive?
So wait, hold
So
tight.
no.
Like, why do you interrupt so much?
Why do
Well,
you?
because I'm
Oh, gosh, shut up.
trying to get to the point. I asked you a very specific question, and you're repeating.
Like, yo, you look, just because you got a TikTok brain, like, bro, that doesn't mean you got to sit there and rush somebody through an answer. It's like, yeah, you ask a question, you're going to get an answer. You ask a long ass question, so you're really about to get a long ass answer.
How you're never gonna die, and all the blood boys that you have on, on lock, or like, nobody cares, man. We're not as rich as you to live forever.
care.
People want
I
to be
care
able to
about
see
the
a doctor.
conversation.
People want to survive when they get
so
a
the
diagnosis.
point, yeah,
People want to get access to meds and not go
the
bankrupt.
point.
Medical bankruptcy is
And
the
you-
leading
you-
cause of bankruptcy in this country. Don't you know that? Or are you too rich to sort of like X yourself out of that situation?
That you are really a
I
rude
was actually
person.
enjoying his answers.
You're welcome.
I mean, bro, I was enjoying his answers too. Like, this man literally knows what he's talking about. Like, bro, when it comes to living forever, now I don't agree with this man and the whole human vampire thing he got going on. But when it comes to how he diets, how he eats vegetables, fruits, how he informs people how certain foods are meant to like low key fix certain parts of your bodies, like when he informs people on that stuff, I'm all for it, my man. I'm all for it. Now, this blood stuff, I don't know about, but hey, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Someone
Brian,
should be
let me
rude,
finish
man.
my
Someone should
statement,
ask you hard questions. This guy's not going to. Piers is
Francesca,
not gonna
let
ask you
him
hard questions.
answer. Let him answer. Brian.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. My goodness. So what I'm saying is we have tested foods of all types, and the toxin load in the U.S. food supply is horrific. It is really, really bad for everyone.
He says, shout out Big Wave Dave. He says, I never go to the doctor. That's how I avoid medical costs. Wait, then, yeah, I try to do the home remedies as best. Hey, look, I got like a witch doctor for a mom. So I'm all good on this side. It's all good. Trust me, I got all the house remedies for days, for years, for generations. Shout out moms and grandma.
Everyone's health. Now, when you're consuming toxins every day, when children are, adults are, and you don't have control over that, just like breathing bad air, you really get sick. And so is it the case that you don't have a doctor? Is that the problem? Or is it the case that you've got a toxic food supply that's filling you full of these things every single day? And so what I think would be cool is if we did something like we mapped the US food-ome, just like the genome. If we actually mapped 80% of the foods that Americans eat on a daily basis and measured the toxins in the foods, what does the average baby consume on a daily basis of mercury and lead and arsenic? What does the average person consume for BPAs and phthalates and microplastic?
And that's why I ain't gonna lie. Look, man, if you about to have a kid or anything, man, make your own baby food, man. You can't trust these people no more. You can't trust them. You cannot trust these people to not feed your kid poison. I know it's effed up, but that's what they on now. So yeah, if you got one of the little baby food makers, kudos to you. You are ahead of the game. You are ahead of the game.
To me, that would be like an investigative act where we get a baseline. What is the toxic load of each person? Then does that explain metabolic disease? Does it explain obesity? Is it explaining why there's so many mental health problems? Maybe.
Yeah, I think these are definite questions to be asked. And the other thing, Grant, to bring Grant in, on the issue of what Brian said about people maybe not dying. I was with Elon Musk last summer. He talked about the humanoid robots that are coming, the Optimus program. And I'm told that the kind of midway step is that you're going to end up with half human, half robot, a bit like the old $6 Million Man TV series, right? Where you get something wrong with you and you get a kind of mechanical upgrade. And slowly you're sort of becoming part human, part robot, but you could potentially just stay alive. Now, whether that's a good thing.
I mean, that's coming.
Yeah,
transhumanism. That's what they call it, honestly. It's a belief that will just ascend, will pass, our organs and all that good stuff. And I don't know. I don't know about that. And I've read some stuff that human conscious can only stay around for about 150 years. So I guess we'll F around to find out, huh? We'll F around to find out eventually.
I think it is coming. I mean, there's no question. We look at these robots now, and you think about a human having stuff repaired in a robotic way, where they still have human dimensions, but have a lot of robotic stuff in them. That makes perfect sense to me. Why wouldn't we end up like that in 30, 40 years?
I do think you should be half robot, Piers. I think that would be enough.
How do you know I'm not already? Francesca?
Honestly, we don't have the evidence that you're not.
Well, the rate that you interrupt people suggests you're not entirely human.
Me interrupt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got
Grant.
it.
Yeah, look, I'm 67 years old. I'm interested in living longer, but I'm also
No.
interested.
I'm just gonna stamp it. She's high. She got to be high or something, bro. Because what am I hearing right now? I remember when she was arguing with the whole Hunter Biden thing, and things got a little yeah. She said some wild things. I mean, wild things. I won't even repeat what that girl said. But lately, this girl been off a rocker. Somebody go ahead and balance out that medication for her. And shout out Big Wave Dave. He says one thing set. All those videos of people using magnets to pull iron particles out of baby food and other foods need to get an education. Damn. What?
In feeling good while I'm doing it. And I know why we appear to have
To be honest, I ain't never seen those videos. Pulling it out of baby food? Yep, see, don't trust it. Can't trust them.
extended life. Most people are not happy in those
They want your kid to be autistic.
last 10, 15, 20 years. I know people are not happy in their 40s. I know guys half my age that can't do anything. They can't do, 20-year-olds that can't do push-ups, sit-ups, can't put, like, this is basic. Let's go back to our education system and teach good health.
Like, you're meant to take in iron. But like that? Though, I mean, isn't there a better way to get iron in your body? Like, God damn it, at that point, I might as well crush the supplements in the baby food. Like, instead of just putting a magnet and little bits are coming out. I don't know. That seems a bit crazy.
Let's teach the American families they're eating garbage like Brian talked about and the doctor did. We're eating fucking garbage, okay? It's garbage. And if you're not going to confront that it's garbage, the sugars we consume today are different than the sugars that I was brought up on. I don't know scientifically what's different, but there's something different about the sugar I consume today.
Hell yeah. I mean, look, like I said, I grew up with immigrant parents. So they brought brown sugar, right? I didn't really see white sugar, honestly, until I went over like my dad's side of the family. And I'm just like, yo, what's this? What's this white stuff that tastes way better than the brown sugar? It's like they said it was sugar. And I'm just like, this shit crazy. Because the brown sugar is not as sweet, but it's twice as healthy. It doesn't have none of the additives or anything. And that's what my mom said I need to use every day is the brown sugar. And not the one that you get from the store out here that they try to finesse you with. The place where she goes, where I do not disclose.
Than when I was in 1960. And so anybody that doesn't want these conversations, the idea that we have 26 prescription meds per household in this country is insane. And they're also contributing. So I'm curious about the connection, particularly from the doctor, the connection between big pharma and big food that's keeping.
Well, that's a really good question. So, Deborah, I mean, there's no doubt that there are a lot of people with vested interests in not sorting this problem out. People who make crap food and want to pummel it to hundreds of millions of Americans. The pharmaceutical companies, I mean, when I read that painkiller stat, I went to my local Rite Aid, I think it was, in LA. And there was just row after row after row of painkillers, all different brand names. But when I looked at them all, they were all the same thing. Exactly the same. All had exactly the same, pretty much the same stuff in them. They were just being packaged and marketed and sold in a different way. This is an obscene thing going on, where America is gigantically over-medicated and pharmaceutical companies are making